What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Couch Podcast. The game literally just ended. For those that aren't tuned in live, I'm talking about the Bills Buccaneers game. Bills dominated pretty much the whole game, but towards the end, it became a real game. Bills victorious by 6 points. I was posting a little bit on Discord and on Twitter about Dalton Kincaid. I went all in on him in the Couch Subscriber League. So I have him in like 3 or 4 leagues. And I don't know what the case was here. Maybe I dropped him. I don't remember. I just know he was on waivers. And we start out with $1,000 FAB. And what I did was I put in 420 like a gentleman. And then maybe I was like, I should do 500, 420. And then I thought about it and I was like, dude, if I miss out on Kincaid, because I'm just like 50% of fantasy managers out there that don't have a tight end and desperate for a tight end. That was me in this league. I had like Fryermuth on IR. I got Luke Musgrave. Like, I'm just trying to find a tight end. And I was like, if I miss out on Kincaid, I'm going to break everything in this room. I'm going to flip out. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to lose it. And I was like, I'll just bid 700. So here's me, not afraid to show. I guess you could, people could make fun of me. I don't think it's a bad move, even in hindsight. I obviously overbid on him. But I'm telling you why, and I'm telling you why I don't think it was that bad of a move. It's blind bidding. You never know who's going to bid what, but I was telling everybody, everyone, everywhere, especially on the waiver wire video, Dalton Kincaid is a must add. Dalton Kincaid is a must roster. I even told a couple people to start 2 tight ends this week. I even told somebody to start Dalton Kincaid over Dallas Goedert because I was projecting Kincaid to score 0.2 more points than Dallas Goedert. I like Kincaid just a little bit more than Dallas Goedert. So it's very good that we see a guy like Kincaid do well. And I'm going to head on over to the chat and reiterate something I said on the waiver wire videos. And I did say this last year as well, but I want to make sure that it is on the podcast. By the way, if you're new here, my name is Hussein the Brain. You're listening to the Fantasy Couch podcast. And we will have my co-host, Dynasty Day Trader, hopping on here in 5 minutes, and he will be doing his Dynasty segment. He is driving right now. He's pulling up to the podcast real soon. So he will hop on. But we're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. Right now, we're talking about the present. We're talking about Dalton Kincaid. Yes, one of the Kings. There we go. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. I don't know if I said that, but you read my mind. Yeah. So I talked about this. So this is what I want to talk about here. And I'm not huge, those graphs and analytics. And I know it's people that like to post all these graphs with the dots and stuff. And those stuff is cool. Like me, I am a numbers guy, but not like that deep. I'm not like looking at, some people look at like 10, 12 graphs a day. That's not me. Like, because you can look at those graphs all the time, but that doesn't mean you're going to make more money or win more leagues. Like, it doesn't equate to that, right? If you draw a graph on people that look at graphs more, they don't win leagues more. So I don't, like, that's the thing. I'm not, those are just people that are just obsessed. It's just an obsessive type of thing. They dive too much into analytics, and it doesn't result in more success in fantasy. I would not have started Kincaid over Hawkinson, just to be quite frank. I'm going to say that right now. I would have probably told you to start both, though. I think you should should have started Hawkinson and flex, and you still can. You still can. So this is what I went over. Okay, so actually, I was gonna have a table and I just forgot. So I'm gonna have a visual for you guys, but I'm just gonna type in the live chat. Okay, so some more people with the Kincaid. Everyone's celebrating the Kincaid advice and starting Kincaid. That's awesome. So for tight ends, the magic number. Okay, so let's take another step back, okay? So I always say, other than the obvious stuff, because we know there's things that are obvious. Everyone you play against knows like how to get fantasy points and start the player with the most fantasy points. So we always take a look at some a little bit more advanced stuff like that. Um, like wind or game script. What about for RBs? We're looking for snaps. That's why we post the snap counts every week. For wide receivers, we're looking for raw targets, right? If you guys feel like I'm talking about like 20 different topics, I'm really not. This all ties into everything I said, ties in together. So there's a lot of analytics out there. Limited time, especially like people watching. We all have limited time. Let's just dive into the stuff that matter the most. For RBs, that's snaps, period. Because we know, of course, all the stats that give us fantasy points directly: yards, touchdowns, receptions. Okay, what about the thing that correlates the most to fantasy points? That doesn't directly give us fantasy points. For RBs, that's snaps. For wide receivers, that's raw targets. Then would come target share, but I don't even look at that too much. It is an important stat, don't get me wrong. It's actually the second most important stat behind raw targets, but raw targets shows even more, shows us the bigger picture. So raw targets for wide receivers. Guess what? For tight ends, it's a little bit different, right? For RBs, we do like red zone stuff too. Tight ends, we look at red zone and this and that. Sure, there's a little bit of difference between tight ends and wide receivers, but the number one thing again for tight ends is raw targets. So if your tight end gets four targets per game, that is bad. Okay. I'm typing this in the chat here, so we got somewhat of a visual. If your tight end gets 5 targets per game, that's startable. If your tight end, and this is just, I don't have a chart or anything. This is just me looking at targets for a decade. I do the waivers meticulously. 6 targets per game equals good. Good or okay. It's good. It's like we can work with that. 5 is not even ideal. And then 7 or more targets per game equals elite or great. Smells is saying the value said targets also matters a lot. I disagree with that because obviously what he's saying is right. Obviously, like a more accurate quarterback. If you're looking at one target for one player or one game, you're right. But that's not what we're doing. We're looking at 40 tight ends, 30 tight ends. And if you add that up over time, because we're not looking at one game, we're not looking at 2 throws. When you add that up, it's going to matter a lot. So go back to this. So I just want to kind of rebuttal this. So Smells is saying the value of said targets also matters a lot. And I disagree because in a small sample size, yes, it's very true. Like if you looked at the game, be like, okay, one was a Hail Mary, one was this one. But if you look at 5 or more games, because my magic number when I'm talking about small sample size versus enough sample size to see what's going on, that's going to be 5 games. 5 games is plenty. That's plenty enough to see. And we're way past 5 games, by the way, in the season. We already kicked off week 8. Over time, it's going to all average out. So if a quarterback, let's say they throw the ball, but all his targets are off target, they're not going to get first downs. They're not going to get that many shots. Like, it's just not going to happen. If you can't sustain drives, you're not going to get as many targets. Also targets just mean like, okay, that means the guy was running a route. That means it means it was a pass play. You know, it it encompasses quite a bit. So you just said a lot. So a tight end that gets 4 targets versus a tight end that gets 7 targets. I'm taking the guy who gets 7 targets over 99% of the time. And here's also a guy I wanted to talk about. Maybe I'm missing a player, but this is the only guy that came to my mind. That's Donald Parham. So there's obviously not targets aren't everything. I mean, this guy's still tight end 29. So this is the guy that came to my mind and I was going to talk about this without seeing Smill's comment, as I disagree with what he's saying. But this is the guy who's getting the most quality targets you can possibly get. Um, they're all in the red zone. He's a touchdown guy. He's not even getting that many snaps. I mean, I assume some of the snaps he gets is he's just blocking. I don't even think he's running around. So Donald Parham is the Chargers' backup tight end. Like, you can pick him and hopefully he gets a touchdown. But no, man. I mean, the data doesn't lie. It's just proven. Like, targets equals fantasy points, and that's really it. Like, it just, the more targets you get, the more fantasy points you get. I mean, it's just as good as that. Um, there are guys that do, like Tyler Conklin kind of sucks more with more targets. Mark Andrews does better with less targets for sure. Like, it's not, but I'm just saying, like, Mark Andrews probably gets some targets too. So Donald Parham is a guy that pops out at me. He's kind of an exception to the rule, yet he's still, freaking tight end 29. He's not that great. Mark Andrews, he does more with less targets for sure. Maybe Kittle as well. But still, look, Mark Andrews is, getting quite a bit of targets. So we got to do 40 divided by 6. 40 divided by 6. 6.67 targets per game. Okay, let's look at Kittle, who's very inconsistent but very good. Okay, Dynasty Day Traders here. Kittle tight end 8. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're still all getting targets. So I guess here's one that's a little bit of an exception. I'm trying to find people that kind of fit your narrative. Yet, I mean, this guy's very inconsistent, but still a very good tight end. So we got 32 targets. So I guess this would be the best exception. Donald Parham, I mean, tight end 29. 32 targets divided by 7. I mean, there we go, like 4.5 targets per game. So he is an exception. And I mean, it's all from this game here, realistically. All right, we'll get bringing Dynasty Day Trader in here. It's all from this game, realistically, that's skewed this, and that's week 5. Week 5, he got 3 receptions and 3 touchdowns. That's a Randy Moss number. Everyone knows the meme, if you guys know what I'm talking about. So really, other than that game, this would not have fit the narrative at all. And, we're talking about a really good team. We're talking about a really good tight end. We're talking about a really good coach. And this is when Purdy was thrown very accurately. So yeah, man, I disagree with that. I think targets do matter. Not everyone fits into the mold. You can't just blindly look at just targets and be like, that's good. But I think this is a really good golden rule and a really good guide. Yeah, you're saying what I meant. I should have elaborated more. Yeah, it matters more than the 4 or 5 targets than a guy like Kelsey and Hawkinson and Andrews who can regularly get crazy numbers like 10 targets. Yeah, so I mean, all the good guys they demand more targets per game as well, So, it all encompasses. That's why targets are very important. Welcome to the show, Dynasty Day Trader. So I told them you were
Yeah, you were talking tight ends, which is
Yes,
always fun.
you are. Schmoes tried to go against the family, or maybe he didn't, and then he apologized and gave me a big hug. and we're
I don't know what's going on, but
we're
targets
cutting
do matter.
bread. We're
It
drinking
matters.
wine. I don't know what happened here, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he tried to go against the family and then he had a change of heart, or maybe I just misunderstood what he was saying. Maybe he was part of the family the whole time. But essentially, what I was saying was right here. I don't know if you can see the chat. I'll bring it up just to quickly sum it up. Tight ends, raw targets is the number one stat. There's other stats. Red zone targets are huge, obviously. Um, Target share percentage is decent, but that's a little bit more important for wide receivers. But anyway, I don't like to waste a lot of time when I look at numbers. I like to just get to the stuff that matters the most
Yep.
and is easy,
Sure.
and that's raw targets. And that's why we post those every week. You do those graphics every week. For RBs, it's snaps, hands down, and for wide receivers and tight ends, it's targets. 4 targets a game for a tight end. That's bad. That's not startable. 5 targets per game. I can work with that. That's like a spot start. Your tight end's on by a desperate start, but like I can maybe do some with that. Like I can start him without throwing up. 6 is good. Like, that's actually a guy that I'm willing to start. I'm not being
For
forced to
sure. For
start.
sure.
And then
Maybe not a
7
top tier guy, but
and
someone
then
pretty good.
7 or more is what you want. That's the
I see.
elite number. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And that's what I was telling Kincaid would absorb Knox's targets. And I was like, he's going to get 7, maybe 8 targets again. I think I predicted 7, which, I mean, I'm not, that's nothing to brag about. That's totally irrelevant. I think I got the targets exactly right, which doesn't matter. But I was pushing Kincaid. I was telling everyone to start him. That's what really matters. And I think he got 7, unless he squeezed in 8. Yeah, 7 targets.
5 for 7. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. So, which I mean, we saw last week. He got 8 targets. So
could have had 2 touchdowns too. I think he was stopped at the 1-yard line early on.
Yeah, they went for it on 4th down, and so that's why targets are important. Like it's kind of like a little bit of luck, like if he's going to get the touchdown or not. But them going to him in goal line situations, that's what's important, and that's what helps predict future fantasy points. So, like that. That's what we were doing before you came. Everyone was congratulating me, and everyone was celebrating because the whole couch family started Kincaid this week. So
very nice. I was against Josh Allen, so that kind of hurts, but I had Chris Godwin going, which is nice.
But we're all in a high stakes dynasty league where we drafted together, and our quarterbacks are just freaking amazing. We got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and like the 34th quarterback taken off the board, or maybe even 35th, we got Baker Mayfield just for like the bye weeks. So
it's
in the
great.
super flex. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, he can be started sometimes, if one of those guys has an injury or even like a down week. It's a best ball, so you would automatically get like a boom week from Baker Mayfield. So he could somehow maybe even find a way in the lineup.
We said that. It's never happening though, which is also good. We said that Baker Mayfield will crack our lineup twice before the season started. I don't think it's happening. It ain't happening. Which is great.
That means Lamar and Josh Allen are balling. So
Baker's getting 15 points, but he's not even cracked. It's best ball, by the way, guys. That's why I think it's going to be confusing if I don't make that clear. It's a best ball dynasty league, and Baker's never in our starting lineup, which is awesome. Yeah. It's just amazing because Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are going insane. I put in a trade for Kincaid yesterday, but the guy never responded. It's too late now.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that ship has sailed. Because I was about to hop. If Kincaid had a bad game, I was about to hop on this podcast and tell everyone to trade for him. I had that planned, and it was right after the play you talked about where they went to him and missed it on the goal line, because that's all I need to see. Like they're willing to go to him a couple times. That's all I need to see, man. And this whole offense runs through Josh Allen. I think that's really it when I want to talk about Kincaid. So I start him every league, told everyone to start him. I overbid on him. It was great. So, Dalton Kincaid, congratulations. Now, one thing I guess that could Yeah, it would affect Kincaid a little bit, not too much. How about if the Bills traded for Derrick Henry? That would be wild.
The Bills trading for Derrick Henry,
It
man.
could happen. I don't see it. I don't think it will. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. But they're not one of the teams I'm crossing off. Right? They are. They're on the list.
Yeah, no,
They're
for
on the
sure.
list
And
of
it
teams
definitely
to
would
get him.
affect. I don't think it would affect, like Kincaid as far as targets. Like it wouldn't like eat into his targets because Derrick Henry is not really much of a receiving guy. But the fact that you would have Henry means you're going to pass a little bit less, and that's going to affect everyone, Diggs included, Gabe Davis. So yeah, I mean that definitely would negatively impact Kincaid a little bit for sure. But I don't know. I'm not gonna, do that math until it happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
For
it
now,
is a lot of factors. Yeah, it is a lot of factors. Theoretically, the
yeah,
offense would be more efficient too. Less mistakes
right,
by
yeah,
Josh
that's true. No,
Allen.
you're right about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot
so
of
there
factors.
is a
A lot of
lot
factors.
to, and I mean touchdowns should go up. The offense should go up.
Hmm.
So a lot of
Yeah,
factors there. And we've never seen this. I don't need like Josh Allen. He's had who Singletary his whole career. Was there a
Singletary,
running back before
Cook,
him?
just mediocre backs,
Like,
mediocre to
yeah, he's
bad
had no
quarterbacks.
real workhorse like
Hmm.
elite running back. But
Not
look at
like a Derrick
this, man.
Henry. No.
These are the odds right here for Derrick Henry. So, guys in the chat right now, go ahead and type in your predictions where Derrick Henry will go. Will he stay on the Titans? And if he'll get traded, which team do you think he'll get traded to? Or if you want to comment on the topic, go ahead. But everybody put in your predictions. This is crazy though. And by the way, Smooth was in Discord talking about the Bills too. So if Derrick Henry gets traded, the odds are saying, which is just, I don't know, people just have to make these odds. 33% chance he's going to the Bills, which is number one. And
I'm
that's
shocked that
crazy.
the Bills are at the top of the list,
Yeah,
honestly.
I doesn't make any sense, but I mean they should be on the list,
But at
but
the top with the single best odds, that's insane.
there's news and rumors, and I feel like they're all fake, but there's actual people that believe the Bills are inquiring about getting Henry seriously, like really seriously.
Yeah.
I guess it could happen. And just watching today, like it feels like they could use a running back
No, you're right.
to help
Absolutely, you're right.
longevity. Like Josh Allen can handle it, but I mean they've had games where he's blew it, like the Jets game. That was so weird. He threw I think 3 picks to one the same
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
just an
like
off day all
you
around.
got to think if Derrick Henry was in the lineup, that wouldn't happen just by default.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, that's true. It would be like
You
a
could,
very like kind of like a rivaling the 49ers, like how many weapons they have on offense, but you have, a difference making quarterback.
yeah, much better playmaker at QB. So the Bills are at number one, the Chiefs at number two, Dolphins at three, Cowboys four, then Steelers, Vikings, Ravens, Bengals, Seahawks. I thought Ravens would be higher.
I was
Now,
gonna say that's my pick right there.
the reason I don't think the Ravens get them, I know that doesn't sound right. Not saying that I don't. I'm just saying like the reasons they would and reasons they wouldn't. So the reasons
Sure,
they
yeah,
would, making a Super Bowl run, they got an aggressive GM, they're going get guys, they need an RB. Like everything makes sense. But if I look at their soul, like their characteristics, like we always know them and the Steelers drafting defensive players, right? And usually hitting on them. Like this is like the type of things
yeah.
they do. They're
Okay, I'm
it's
with
all
you
about
there for the most
defense,
part.
right? So I'm just saying like these are like their tendencies, like these are things they've been doing the past decade or so. And the guys they go get are often defensive players. So I don't know if they were going to invest draft capital, trading draft picks for a running back. That just seems odd for the Ravens to do and an older
Well,
running back.
okay, a little bit of pushback. I will say that the last two first round picks that they had were used on a receiver and a center offensive lineman. So, you know, I get what you're saying. Like, last
I know,
decade
forget about that
defense.
point. That wasn't my point was like they're always like my point
No, no,
was
no.
like
My point, my counterpoint is like now that they're trying to make Lamar Jackson evolve as a passer, maybe you are going to try to get more into offense because they have the last couple of years as they've been trying to make that effort.
yeah, that wasn't my
Doing that.
point. I was trying to just say like these guys have certain tendencies. Like
Okay.
I used to think like maybe you can't predict that, but like a lot of these things are predictable, like what they do, what they like to do. Yeah, obviously now, like like Lamar Jackson hasn't had anybody to throw to in a while, and they need to improve their O line, so they did that. Like I get they
Right.
attacked that.
Right.
I'm just saying like these are things they do. That's all I was trying to say. Like these are things they do. Is like certain patterns, predictable patterns.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And I've
I'm with
never
you
seen yeah, that's
on that.
all I was trying to say. Yeah,
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
obviously, they were doing those things, like, for sure, and they went and signed Odell to a really expensive contract just to make Lamar happy. They went and got Zay Flowers, like, obviously, they're doing these things, but, like, they're also very aggressive with defense. They always got that on lock, and I'm just saying, like, it seems uncharacteristic for them to go out and get an old running back. It might help push
Yeah.
them over the edge. It just seems weird to me. That's all. Very weird for them to spend a third round pick to get Henry.
Yeah.
It would help the
It seems
team
more
though a
Ravensy to
lot.
use that third round pick to get like a younger, fresh legs running back in a year from now because they have two guys, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, that have been in the system for quite some time. So it's not like they have nothing. They have something there. So they
Yeah.
don't like need. It's not like a desperate need. You could definitely use a nice running back like Derrick Henry, but I don't know. And yeah, now that you've kind of laid out your argument, I kind of see what you're saying because also the general manager over there, while he is aggressive, he also is like smart aggressive, and we all kind of know that investing in running backs might not be the wisest thing to do for an NFL franchise because of especially a guy Derrick Henry's age. You don't know how many years when he's going to really fall off. So yeah, I kind of see your point. I kind of see, I guess, the reasons why the Ravens would not do it.
Yeah, it's like
Talking
a
about why the Ravens
50-50.
would though,
Yeah, there's a lot of
Or-
reasons why they would. A lot.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
and I kind
it's
of lean
tough.
more towards that. If I were to, you said earlier, drop in the comment, which team you think you'd go on. If I were dropping a comment, I would probably say the Ravens. I guess now that we're thinking and talking out loud, I don't feel as good about it, but I would still probably lean there.
Literally
Plus 900, not
nobody made a prediction, literally. It's just like them hating on it.
I see one
Derrick
guy said
Henry.
Vikings.
Oh
Omaha
yeah,
said
yeah. Okay,
Vikings.
one guy said Vikings. So what's a fair trade for Henry? Fifth or sixth? No. That's the thing. Then
I'll go one more.
The Ravens would have done that.
Yeah, that trade would have been already been
and they would have thrown in a seventh just to do it, like just to be nice.
If you're on the fence, I'll throw in the seventh rounder, sweetener. Let's get this deal done.
That's what makes this that would be totally a no-brainer, dude. It's gonna be a third round pick. That's the price for Derrick Henry, which is a fair price. It's a 1-year rental, but he's got some people in the chat are saying like he's bad and this and that, and I think you're just you're really tunnel vision in fantasy. That's not how life works. Like just because like you're mad at your fantasy team, that doesn't mean that that's how Derrick Henry's going to be once he gets traded. Derrick Henry is much older. You got to look at this as a 1-year rental just to be safe. But he still looks good. Now, what you're seeing is him on the Titans, and the Titans have been pretty crappy the last 2 years, and he's still been pretty good. Like, give him some credit, and he's been one of the best running backs of our generation, or at least this decade. And I want to talk about that. Oops, we're supposed to save this one for later. I want to talk about that a little bit. So Derrick Henry's 29.8 years old, but he's built different. I kind of like this website where they do stuff like this. Player Profiler, best comparable player, Zangief from Street Fighter. Another guy reminds me of is Adrian Peterson. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Is he supposed to be like the fantasy Jesus? I think that's.
I don't know what's going on there. I love the graphic though.
An apostle or a prophet, something along those lines. Sorry, I don't know. But that's why they made Adrian Peterson here. And again, another guy, he had an ACL. Then he basically broke a record the very next year, defied all odds. I remember one of my buddies drafted Toby Gerhart like in round 5.
I
So
remember that
like,
guy.
yeah, he's gonna be good. Like at least for the first 2 weeks, like he's a must start. And then
Yeah.
he didn't even do. Toby Gerhart didn't even touch the ball. It's just Adrian Peterson just setting a record, 2,000 yards. It was crazy. And I kind of think Saquon. I mean, at least I'm very hopeful that Saquon's built different like these guys as well. Guys that have handled the workload, have always done well. You know, guys that are just built different. Like these are the workhorse running backs. And somebody asked this, and look, man, I admit, like I'm not an RB coach. I don't know everything, but big picture wise, this is your answer here. What we're talking about. I'm trying to find the question.
I think you're missing one name, by the way, as you search for that question. That would be Christian McCaffrey. I think he's got a good 3 years of
Well,
very, very good
I don't
production
know.
left.
He
And
is. If you
you're
said that 2 years ago, you'd be like, "Oh, that's the most injury-prone player in fantasy football." So, as far as a talent,
same with Saquon, though,
yeah,
right? Didn't they both get hurt 2 years, the same 2 years, if I'm not mistaken? McCaffrey,
I
Saquon?
think CMC was better known to be much more injury-prone,
I don't know. I don't know, man. I think he's
much
on
more
that level.
injury-prone. Yeah, I guess 1 year, I guess people were down on Saquon and he bounced back.
He's the man of all mans right now, too, you know?
Christian
Way better than
McCaffrey,
Saquon, Derrick Henry in
we'll
fantasy and just in real life.
Well, as I'm not talking about straight talent though. That's not what I was
Oh,
talking about. I was talking
how they're
about
built?
like longevity,
Yeah.
falling off a cliff. It's Christian McCaffrey. I
He's not
don't
about
know
to fall
yet.
off. No way.
I don't
I
know.
think he's got what you see right now. He's like the top scoring fantasy asset,
Yeah,
RB1.
he's
Just
the best. He's the best
he's.
right now. Yeah,
I think you're gonna
I
see that
agree.
for like a good, as long as he stays healthy, because that can happen to any of these guys. I think he's gonna be this for like a good 2 more seasons, at least, maybe even 3, and that takes him to 30 years old.
He could. I'm more concerned with the injuries and his size.
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
I think that's you being
I
a
have a little
49ers
more.
fan, being a little scared, but that's just
I
my
don't see how
opinion.
that makes sense because I mean, everyone would always say like, "Oh, you're biased in this." So I mean, I don't. I
I don't
mean,
know
how does that fit your narrative? Like he's on the Niners.
what.
That'd be. I mean, that'd be great if this guy was Barry
Yeah,
Sanders
no, no,
plus
dude.
Adrian Peterson.
Fans go
That'd
all
be
sorts of
awesome.
directions.
But
Too
I don't do
emotional
any
either
of
way.
that stuff. I don't do any
I
of
don't
that
know.
stuff.
Maybe.
I'm just saying, as far as like Adrian Peterson, Derrick Henry, I don't know yet. I mean, the only thing that would derail CMC because he's so good is
Yeah,
injuries. Yeah, in 2 years, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he could be a top 5 running back with his eyes closed because he's just that good. I mean, he could just do it even if he was just like a third down back, he'd still be like a RB1. That's how good he is.
right.
But I think
Agreed.
he was really labeled injury prone. I think everybody kind of thought that. I didn't for Saquon. I did not. You know, he had one ACL.
That
Um,
freak injury that really can't.
yeah, it
You know.
was just. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else because yeah, a lot of people were making fun of me when I was like Saquon's gonna bounce back. I still have faith, but I think it was just a little bit different. We'll see. I mean, I hope CMC is good, but nonetheless, you're putting him in this category of they're built different. They can handle the
Yeah,
workload for a lot of years, but um, typically, we're seeing it with Dalvin Cook. He's 28.2 years old now. He's fell off. He's
completely.
declined quite
Hmm.
a bit. He was complaining today, saying that he needs to get in rhythm, so he needs more carries. That's why he's getting 2.8 yards per carry. But to me, when I watch the Jets games, Michael Carter looks better than Dalvin Cook, and I think that's really what got me being decisive on this storyline that Dalvin Cook has fell off.
Okay.
Fell off a cliff because Michael Carter he was just okay. And if you're
Yeah, I'm
looking
with.
worse and slower than Michael Carter, I think that's a huge problem. So just I'd rather give the ball to Michael Carter if I was the Jets. He's faster, he's quicker,
Yeah,
he's a
that's a
good pass
problem then for
catcher.
Dalton
Yeah,
Kincaid.
it's a
Sure,
huge,
that's a huge
it's a
problem.
huge, yeah. And so it's tough, man, to know. So I got a question, and I think we all know the answer, but I wanted a specific answer. So I got a question, and it was on it was on Discord, it was on our voice call.
Mhm.
Somebody said, hey, in Dynasty, when's the best time to trade away a running back? And my answer was just before his second contract, which is like two or a little bit more years before the
Yeah,
decline, which starts at 27. Now, is that the right answer, or do you think that you should change that?
I think that used to be the right answer. I think because we're going to talk about this when we get to the dynasty segment, but I think because the landscape is changing a little bit, just how the position is being valued in this game, I think the way to play is that you simply just use running backs and you just chase points. So if I'm ready to compete, that's when I'm going to get all my running backs, and I'm a-okay with getting a guy like, let's say, Jerome Ford and Kyron Williams, get those guys for like fourth round picks a year in advance and just get lucky. And if it doesn't happen, then once I'm ready to compete, maybe throw some first round picks, get a guy like an Austin Eckler on my team, even though it's not the ideal plan for longevity. Like realistically, like the way to play for this running back thing is just go year to year, week to week, just chase the points. Honestly, there's really not much else you can do unless you get these few, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley type guys who are just freaks that you can kind of rely on to, have give you that longevity and dynasty. Other than that, it's really just operate season to season because the whole position is just a mess. And we'll talk about that, why specifically in just a little bit here. But that's my answer for you. Might not be the best answer, but that's
So
my answer.
wait, so when's the best time? But that's what he asked. So when's the best time to trade away a running back? Or are you saying it
Trade
doesn't matter
the best. So the best time to trade
in
for
Dynasty
running
is the
backs.
general?
I'll, I'll I'll go both ways. I'll say best time to trade for and best time to trade away. Best time to trade for running backs whenever you can win. Best time to trade away running backs whenever you cannot win. Period. I mean, that's just how it is now. It's such a crap shooty position. That's just the state that we're in right now. That there really is nobody, or maybe only like 2, 3, 4, 5 at the most guys that you can rely on at this position to give you multiple years. That's just the state that we're in right now. So I hope that answers the question. It's not the
Yeah.
I know it's not the answer you're
He
looking
was
for, but I mean
because he
that's the best
was
answer
yeah.
I
I mean,
got.
I didn't want to answer that because it was it was a general question. But I
Yeah.
see what you mean. But a more functional advice would be what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one thing that I hope that really opened your eyes too, and definitely mine, was joining those high stakes dynasty leagues.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my
Because
God. Yeah.
when you see 20 people that put thousands of dollars into a league versus, a lot of people in Dynasty. Some people are in a $10 league in Dynasty. $10, $50, $30. It's different.
Not the same.
You got people in there who's never done it, or you got people in there who are too busy or something. Nobody's too
Mm-hmm.
busy when it comes to $3,000. Like that's when you talk about real money.
Right.
No, and then in those leagues too, you have to put a deposit down too for next year. So you're throwing in $300 for next year, and then when you trade away your first round pick, you got to throw in another $300. So yeah, my credit card got charged like I forgot what it was. It was a lot though.
A hefty amount.
I forgot. I think it was over 1,000 because we did all of the
We did
above.
all of it. Yeah.
We paid
Check,
500
check,
for the
check.
league. We paid 300 deposit, and then I put in like another 250, I think, or something. Yeah, that's what it was. Another 250 after we traded away our first round pick. So $1,050. It's no joke when people are putting in 1,000. And what happened in those leagues? Like everything I said came true, right? Everybody just hated running backs. Like they just and now it's worse. Now after
It's
the
even
year
worse now.
started,
Yeah.
now it makes you even more queasy. It's
Just
way messier than we thought. And these guys were literally the only running back they went for was Bijan. in that dynasty startup we did. He went early. And then after that, like they just didn't care. It was like, whatever. So
just take a guy, find a guy, chase points. That's kind of where we're at right now, unfortunately. But yeah, I think you're right. That is functional advice. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough. I guess the more general thing is just try to get them as young as they can. But really, like, I have no issue going for Alvin Kamara right now if my team is winning. You know,
this guy says,
I'm
should I
cool with
trade
that.
Saquon for Eckler full PPR? Yeah, go get Eckler. It's not so much of the talent difference, it's the team.
Yep.
One team has a good offense, and Giants are dead last in offense.
Yeah.
I mean, dead last is just, it's not good for fantasy, man.
Took me a second to adjust back to redraft, but yeah, absolutely Eckler.
Yeah. Wait, in Dynasty,
heck no.
do it for if you're win now.
Yeah, I guess.
Right, because I mean, one guy's gonna help you win the championship this year better.
That's true. You're right about that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I want to talk about this. I thought it was a good segue to our next topic. Anyway, I want to talk about Derrick Henry. Where he could go. So as far as buy low options, this is actually one of the most important things. I don't really have specific names for you guys, but I did want to talk about trades, and I kind of want to do that every podcast, talk a little bit about trades, and we'll do a dynasty segment every time you come on. So one thing you do want to consider, this is not a huge factor, but something you 100% need to consider if you're going to make a fantasy football trade, is Derrick Henry's landing spot. So this means that if someone doesn't keep up with any news, that means you can get Tajay Spears off his team really cheap. Okay, that's a rare thing. That's like a 5%. But hey, if 100 people are listening to this podcast, then five of you might be able to get Tajay Spears for nothing. Boom. If he's on waivers, of course, pick him up. If somebody has him and doesn't know what they have, go trade for him, get him for cheap. We're looking here, right? Oh, James Cook's a buy low. Well, I mean, according to these odds, if you get James Cook and they get Henry, you're screwed, right?
Right.
The Chiefs, I don't see Derrick Henry going. That one actually makes no sense at all. That one's really stupid.
I feel like the RBs are the only bright spot in that offense aside from Mahomes and Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, they would maybe get a wide receiver before that, but whatever. Like, I just want you guys to consider these things. The Cowboys is one too, right? I see Pollard in a lot of trade questions. If Henry goes to the Cowboys, Pollard becomes nothing. He becomes like, it's gonna really hurt him, like a lot. I mean, you're gonna be disappointed. Yeah, I mean, like Pollard's still a starter every week, sure, but like this is something you need to at least consider before making this trade.
I'm with you. I see your point for sure. There's a lot of teams on there. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. I see Madison, Akers up there. I know Cam Akers is getting a lot of love. There's a lot. Like one of these guys, one of these landing spots, like a Joe Mixon, for example, is just going to just be totally disruptive value as soon as Derrick Henry gets moved. So I like that advice that you started this kind of mini segment with about Tajay Spears. I think that's the guy that you really want to try to get. Obviously, yes, it's going to be that 5% where you're going to get the guy for nothing. Fine. But I think there's a little bit more of a window where you can still get him for kind of like a buy low type thing. Maybe not buy for nothing or buy for free or buy for super cheap, but there's still like a buy low type thing for Tajay Spears. I think I would do that. I think I would. Dynasty, maybe not, but for redraft, absolutely.
I just sent a trade for Tajay Spears. You're not going to be able to guess who I sent it to. Guess who I sent it to?
Guess who?
Yeah. Just say, since you won't be able to, just say a stupid name.
Mike? Drew?
No. Do you know who Scott Fish is?
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know who that is?
Yeah, the fishbowl, right?
Yeah. So I'm in a league with Scott Fish. He runs the biggest fantasy football league ever. He's got Tajay Spears. Like, he's not part of that 5%. He obviously knows what he's got.
Good luck.
It's just funny. Like, it just came. I forgot. I just did that I was on my phone in the restroom during the game, and I just sent him a trade, and I was like, yeah, he's not part of that 5%. He knows what's up. But Paulie, we have an answer for you. This is actually real. Just under 60% chance odds that Derrick Henry gets traded. So let's just make that a 50-50. So that's high. It's real. And you know what?
Wow.
I mean, the Titans need to do it. Like, this is ridiculous. You got to do it. Just take Dynasty Day Trader's advice that he just gave out. When you're trying to win, go get a RB. When you're looking like, you're eating a jar of mayo every Sunday,
get rid of him.
Trade him away.
Yep.
They should just trade away Tajay Spears too while they're at it. He's got no ACLs. Like, just get rid of him. Sell house. Sell everything. Ship everything. Get rid of Tannehill. Put Chikakonkwo on a real team. Oh my god.
Oh,
Let's
baby.
go. Oh my god. Put him on the Chiefs with Kelsey. Have him run 3 tight ends.
Let's do it.
I'm
not opposed, man.
The athletic tight ends. Wouldn't that has any team done that? Like, had like 3 Jimmy Grahams?
No.
No one's done that. It's not like practical, huh?
You'll see 3 tight ends like jumbo at the goal line, but that is
just not practical, huh? Because like the Patriots was like the best tight end duo, Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, but that's the 2 complete opposite tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like, I was one, but I mean, I think it could work. It's just not realistic. I just think, like, in theory it could work. Because the only way that would work is like one guy's kind of like an H-back, right? And then the other 2 are like Kincaid, like they're actually like receivers. They're that good at catching the football and running routes and beating, and being mismatches when they run routes, that you could run 3 tight ends, but 3 like athletic tight ends though.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing, right? Not even a lot. Most of the 32 NFL teams build their tight end rooms exactly like how you said. They'll have like a receivery tight end, they'll have an H-back, and they'll have a guy kind of in between that. But like, it's so often that even one of them are good, let alone 2. So forget about the idea of having 3 good tight ends on one team. That's just like, are there enough good tight ends in the world for that? I don't know. That's the whole thing. But
Chargers
it could work in theory if you land those 3 types of talents.
Chargers and Cowboys, they suck though.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Those guys, we started talking about. So we're talking about Donald Parham before you came on, I think, because I was trying to like find guys that are outside the norm, and we did. Donald Parham and George Kittle. Parham's still tight end 29 though. All he does is catch touchdowns. But you can't start tight end 29. Like, what the heck? It's not even a real
work if he's touchdown only.
Why would you have Parham in your best ball? I mean, you have to be a deep
tight end 4, tight end 5. If you just
no one has 5 tight ends. No, nobody. No, it's just it's unreal. Like, tight end 29. That's still not that good.
It's not. No
format. Yeah, that's not good, bro. It's like that's almost 32. Yeah.
Quite bad, actually, but okay.
But George Kittle was definitely the real outlier where he's not getting a ton of targets, but he's balling. Because, like, and I know George Kittle, like, it's not just that one game. Like, he's the type of guy that could do that. I guess where it kind of fits the same storyline is, like, he's wildly inconsistent, though. And that's bad in normal fantasy. In best ball, that's cool. That's fine. But when you're playing normal fantasy, that stuff kills you when he gets 1.5 fantasy points, 1.1 fantasy points, which he does. And that stuff really, really destroys you. Scott Fish. No, I don't know who that. No. I don't know, but I don't know who that is, but Scott Fish is he's a very popular guy in fantasy. He runs the biggest fantasy football charity league, Scott Fish.
Yeah, just Google search Scott Fishbowl. I'm sure you've heard of this. Omaha.
Yeah, it's huge. Is Spears cuttable if Henry doesn't get traded? Yeah, but at the same time, he's also rosterable too. He is. If you're asking, like, is he like a must cut? Like, would you cut him? No, I probably would keep him. I would
Yeah,
try
because
to
Derrick
keep
Henry could
Spears.
get hurt. You know.
Yeah, and Spears is still getting like 50% of the snaps. Like
Yeah.
it's, he's being used. Like he's not that bad. He's kind of on a similar level to maybe like a Jalen Warren. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I would
Definitely a good
definitely
comparison. Yeah.
keep it. I hope my Cowboys don't trade for Henry. Just like Sully was hoping his Jets didn't trade for Dalvin Cook,
Dalvin
but
Cook and oh boy.
we can't all get
Dude.
our anti wishes. Yeah, and I was thinking, talking about these RBs that are built
Yeah.
different was a good segue into our dynasty segment. So we're gonna go into our dynasty segment. We'll do one every time you're on, and then after that, guys, we will answer some fantasy football questions. So stay tuned for the next 15 minutes, and we will get to your questions as well. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean it definitely is the perfect segue. Because we're gonna talk about, yes, it is a dynasty segment, so we are going to focus on the dynasty aspect, and we are going to get to some specific names. But right now, I did want to just kind of talk about just kind of I'm going to call it the state of the union, if you will. Just where are we at with these running back positions? We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast. Well, let's get into detail, right? So the bottom line here is that we are in a little bit of a code red as far as the how running backs look as a whole now and in the future. Okay, let's talk about this, right? So there's kind of three ways that I wanted to separate, and this is gonna be more of a discussion, Kaz. So feel free to chime in with your own ideas and opinions, as needed. I kind of want to separate this, evaluate running backs in three different ways, right? First of all, one, me and you, Couch, how are we doing this for fantasy football as fantasy managers, right? Well, we are talking dynasty football, and most people know that, running backs have the shortest longevity or shelf life, we call it, of the four major positions, right? So, like, example, a quarterback, you'll get them in the rookie draft at the age of like what, 22, 21, something like that, and they can play well into their 30s. And for a dynasty league, if you have a guy for a 10-year career, I mean that's more than plenty. You're good enough for that, right? Same thing for receivers. Tight ends like Travis Kelce. If you hit on a guy like that, he's approaching his mid 30s and he's still at the top of his game. But for running backs, we kind of use that 30-year-old barrier, but it may be even sooner than that nowadays, and that's kind of due to how often they get injured. Right now, I understand every position gets injured, but in fantasy couch, we don't really, even for a super flex league, if I have Joe Burrow, I'm probably not drafting his backup. I'm probably just going to draft like 3 or 4 starting quarterbacks, but I'm probably not going to handcuff Joe Burrow. Same thing with Jamar Chase in a redraft league. I'm not going to handcuff Jamar Chase with T. Higgins. But I would do that, or I would at least consider doing that with these running backs. It's the only position that we handcuff these guys in because we know that, one, they can get injured, at any given moment way more often, or, just because of the brutal state of the position, how it's played. And as soon as they get injured, the next guy up becomes incredibly valuable. So,
And
because we get all of
what
that.
sucks is that's not even happening anymore. But that's been my motto, like
Yeah.
1000%. I always tell people, look, the workhorse is the backup to the workhorse 80 to 90% of the time is going to put up 80 to 90% of the production, and it's just not happening anymore.
And I'll tell you
Because
why
it's
that's not
that
happening.
messy. Keontae Ingram.
Yep.
I mean, can you say it really happened? Not. I mean, it happened. Not really. No. And now he's not even. Now he gets 0 touches. Joshua Kelly. That's like the most horrific example ever. And we went through that in Throne League. We had Eckler. Thank God we had Joshua Kelly. And the man barely gets us 5 fantasy points. It's embarrassing. It's just totally crazy. So on and so forth. I mean, there's just so many freaking examples. Sean McVay, he'll do that every time. The backup's never the backup, and the starter's never the starter, and it's just
I'm with you. It's
even more messy the last 2 years. It's been like that. You can't even have a great and look at Gus Edwards. It's been Justice Hill a lot this year. enough to at least where you're hesitant on starting Gus Edwards when you don't start him when he actually does good this past
Yeah.
week.
So basically, what I'm hearing is I'm hearing a lot of, oh, there's Keontae Ingram, but then DeMercado. There's Gus Edwards, but then Justice Hill. It's because of these stupid RBBCs, right? And for fantasy football, we're still talking about the fantasy evaluation. Yes, we're going to call them stupid because they don't help us at all. These these committees are not helpful for our fantasy teams. They hurt us more than help us. It's one of those situations where I can have Gus Edwards and Justice Hill and prepare for injuries as best as I can leading up to a season, and then when the time comes to start them, I might start the wrong guy because it's an RBBC. Like, to your point, like you said, it's not like a 70-80% of their production or 80-90%, whatever numbers you use, like it used to be. So that's the problem. So how do people solve this issue? What's kind of their solution for Dynasty for now? It's kind of what I talked about earlier, where it's like, okay, the general statement, if you're rebuilding, wait for running backs. If you win now, go get your running backs because the position is a quick fix. It's once you get the guy on your team, use him for the points and hope to win a championship. If there's anything else I'm missing for fantasy, for any of the guys who are watching live, feel free to chime in, drop a comment. But let's move on now to how these running backs are evaluated in the NFL. So we're now straying away from fantasy. Now we're just going to be talking about like put your football coach hat on. Let's talk about NFL, right? Let's talk about these contracts. Well, Jonathan Taylor got his, but he had to fight like heck for his, right? They don't like to sign, in general, running backs on long-term deals. Look at Josh Jacobs, for example. He's been a very good running back in the NFL. He does not have a lot of workload because he was virtually unused in college, but he still had good traits, and obviously he's been a really good piece on the Raiders offense. And he is still unable to get a long-term contract. So, when we're talking about running backs, yes, there's going to be the whole tread on the tires argument. That's one of the things that popped up for Jonathan Taylor, for example. But if a guy like Josh Jacobs, and we can get to Saquon Barkley as well with the Giants, if those types of guys, an uber talent and a guy who has minimal tread on tires, cannot get long-term deals done, I mean, man, it just shows you how these NFL teams value that position. On top of that, now you see all these guys getting these cheap contract running backs. My favorite example of this, Couch, my absolute favorite example, and it just so happens we're doing this after watching him play, Latavius Murray. I mean, man, that guy is still in the league. As fantasy managers, we hate it, but in the NFL, like, yeah, he's a cheap cost RB. All I need to do is just get a guy to, carry the ball so many times. Hopefully he can be somewhat efficient with his opportunities. And if I can get a cheap cost and get that running back ground game production, I'm good. Moving on to the next point, most teams nowadays, yes, there are exceptions, but most teams, they want quantity. They want a number of guys at that position because of, again, the cheap cost. So it's like, all right, one guy does his thing, goes down with an injury. Shoot, let me just put the next guy in. Cheap contract type of guy, low value, or I guess high value if you want to call it that, as far as getting the best bang for your buck. Put him in, let him do his thing. These guys are very replaceable as far as how a football coach sees running backs, unless we're talking about those elite talents who we can now move on to the prospect section.
Doesn't the Eagles do this?
Sure.
But do it successfully, right? I'm trying to think of all their examples. They've always had pretty good, at least above average running back or running back room, and never have spent a ton. No first round draft pick, none of those contract. Most of the time when we say this is a really dumb contract that a team signs to a player, it's usually a running back. Right?
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Yeah. You're
Deshaun
right
Watson, Kenny Golladay, maybe a couple others, and the rest are all running backs.
All RBs.
Todd Gurley, Like, it's just the most like biggest examples that stand out. But see, the Eagles have done that. They got DeAndre Swift for a 3rd round pick. What round was Kenny Gainwell drafted? 4th?
I think 4th
3rd?
rounder.
Yeah.
3rd or 4th rounder.
Boston Scott, I don't even know who's that. Like, where's that guy coming
Super late.
from?
Yeah.
Jay Ajayi, he was like a troubled child in Miami. I don't think they paid too much for him to get him from Miami. LeGarrette Blount, I don't think like they went out crazy. I couldn't see them doing anything crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point though. It's cost effective because I mean as a coach, as a football team, all I need is a guy to get so and so carries and just be okay with it. Yes, if he's great, I mean, yeah, that's bonus points. That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm not going to say no for that. But as long as he's good enough, that gets the job done. Now I can have 3 guys like that fill different roles, and I have myself a running back room. I don't need to have Bijan Robinson on an NFL football team to be successful. I can just make it work with a combination of guys like you just said. DeAndre Swift and Gainwell and Boston Scott and Sanders and LeGarrette Blount.
Miles Sanders went at the very end of round 2, or not very, but late round 2. So yeah, that's one team that has done it well, that has never went out of their way to get a running back. And it seems like some of these teams that do that, it doesn't work. Even when it works out, it doesn't work out, to be quite honest. Like Saquon Barkley, as much as I'm a huge fanboy and love him, he was drafted too early. And they shouldn't have drafted him. I mean, it just not worth it. Even if it wasn't like egregiously an overpay, taking him 2nd overall in the draft was probably not the best move. You probably shouldn't have. It just, the price was a little too high for that.
Sure.
And it often Fournette, that was an awful draft pick by the Jags.
Honestly, we could even start to say Bijan is not a home run slam dunk draft pick. I understand that, yes, he was the best, most talented number 1 guy on the board and everything, but because of the position, and I understand I did correctly predict that he would be in the top 10. So I did see this coming because of the talent, but like, man, the position is so replaceable. I'm just gonna kind of stick on that word replaceable. That's like, man, you could have really helped your team out in a different way.
It's nothing to do with Bijan. It's the Falcons.
Has nothing to do with Bijan.
The Falcons did it. So we're talking about the team. So you know how mad I was at the Falcons for doing that. I mean, it didn't affect me. Like, it's fine. But like, now that we know, now that we know that Desmond Ridder is probably not the long-term solution, it was a bad pick.
Yeah,
by the
100%.
Falcons. Yeah. And the Lions, I'm not going to say Gibbs was a bad pick, but again, like they took Gibbs super early, and I mean that was an odd thing. Maybe they could have just kept Swift. I don't know, but maybe it's helping them win because there's a lot more to it than football. But yeah, investing a lot in a running back, whether it's signing a long-term major deal, 80 million, 100 million, or spending top 10 pick on a running back, it's probably something you're going to regret as an NFL team.
Yeah, it just hasn't worked out. Basically, that's kind of the bottom line that we're getting at here.
Kenny Gainwell was a 5th round pick. Yeah, just
Philadelphia
Eagles jump. They popped out at me as one team that lives by this and actually has won a Super Bowl and been very successful, extremely successful with this. Well, their quarterback they got right now is a little bit of an RB too, so that helps. When guys like Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson are just amazing running backs and really good quarterbacks too, it's like, that helps.
Yeah. No, major help there, big time. So yeah, just kind of fixating on that is it's really just bottom line, these guys are replaceable pretty much. There are a few guys like the Bijans that we're talking about, and maybe Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Who, those guys are true workhorses. Those guys are truly, I don't want to say one of a kind, but nowadays they are, a rare breed. And let's kind of shift into the prospect section of the RB evaluation. There's not any more of these to come for quite some time. There's one guy in 2025. We'll talk about him specifically in just a second. But other than that one individual player, man, it looks like a lot of these guys are going to, first of all, if we're talking about where they get drafted in the NFL, okay, it's not going to be in the first. Forget about top 5 pick like a Saquon. They're probably not going to get drafted in the first round. Any of these guys that I mentioned today, not a single one. And it kind of represents this kind of new era that we're in, where it's like, like we've been talking about all throughout, right? How our running backs just aren't really the workhorse thing. Just isn't really being done anymore. It's becoming more committee type stuff. But this new era also represents something else, Couch, that I want to talk to you and step back just a little bit about. Let's briefly look at the recent history, extremely recent history of running backs in fantasy, right? So we had all these guys like Adrian Peterson, like you mentioned, Marshawn Lynch, if you want to go back in the day,
Bell.
Mark Ingram when he was popping off, right? Those were amazing, okay? And then the year 2017 happened. What happened in 2017?
Le'Veon Bell, and then
Le'Veon Bell included, right?
Arian Foster.
Arian Foster, yeah, all those guys were just amazing. We had a healthy number of elite, workhorse or just elite, superstar stud RB1s. We had a healthy amount. Okay, then what happens? Year 2017 happens, and we get a huge influx of talent. We get guys like Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, all in 1 year. Perfect, right? That basically reboots the RB landscape. Now all of a sudden, as Marshawn Lynch and Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram, as those guys kind of begin to decline, getting older, now you see guys like Kamara becoming a top 5, top 3 pick every year in redraft, and McCaffrey, Saquon going 1 and 2 every year, or not Saquon just yet, but McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook going 1, 2 every year, stuff like that. Okay, then we have Saquon. He gets added to the party. Great. And then the year 2020 happens. And 2020, Couch, was supposed to be, the next coming of 2017, if you will. We had guys like Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, A.J. Dillon, Zach Moss. I think those are the main – Antonio Gibson. Those are the main 8 running backs that I can think of in 2020. This was supposed to be the same thing that happened in 2017. All of these guys are supposed to be these bona fide top 3, top 4, top 5 redraft picks every year. They are not. Clearly, they are just not. As much as we can talk about DeAndre Swift, he was not picked even in the first 3 or 4 or 5 rounds of a redraft league, I don't think. And same thing with Dobbins. He's got some injury luck. Cam Akers in a committee. The only really decent one is like Jonathan Taylor, and that too, he had a weird situation to begin this season. So it's been just very cloudy. And now, well, we're in that kind of state of the reboot where 2024 is kind of, should have been the reboot stage for running backs, and it's just not, because now I'm thinking like, okay, well, let's scroll down a little bit to get specific into these names, Couch. There's a couple guys from Ohio State. They're pretty good. I like them, but it's like, do I like them more than Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift? I like them about the same. Najee Harris, Etienne. I think I like Etienne the most out of all these guys. Not even close. And, it turns out he certainly is producing that way. I know we had a question about the Michigan running backs. Same thing with those guys. Like, these guys are all committee backs, right? I think the upside here as a whole is that, maybe we can get a lead back type of guy, a 2-down guy who can produce, let's call it, I don't know, RB2 numbers in fantasy. Okay. But there is no more Bijan Robinson. That's why I've been telling you guys last year in rookie drafts, like, man, try to get this Bijan Robinson guy if you can. And if you cannot, if your roster cannot afford a Bijan Robinson, then you better get an absolute haul for him, because there is no one like him at all. I will say this, right? The future of the running backs it's not yes, for the workhorse position, it's bad. But as far as like if you want to get these committee backs, try to hit on like a lead back in a situation who could produce for you, we do have some options, but I'm going to tell you that an alarmingly high number of them come from one conference, the Big Ten. And we're kind of in a situation, Couch, where I believe it's Big Ten or bust. Now, is this every single running back prospect over the next 2-3 years? No. There's a couple names that are not in the Big Ten that we'll talk about in time. It's only week 8. We got time to do that. But for now, I wanted to talk about these 8 running backs that you see on your screen. And, I do believe that all 8 of these guys will get drafted into the NFL. I do believe that. But let's talk about them now kind of as individuals, right? So let's just go from left to right. Let's start with Ohio State, work our way down and go to the right side. So Trevion Henderson, he's going to be available next year along with his running mate, Mayan Williams. Why have I included both of these guys here? Well, because in college, it's a split backfield. There is no workhorse. They're splitting the carries. There's also another guy in there, Dalton Hayden. He's not as good. He's more of a college back. I think he could maybe rise, but for now, it's really just these 2 guys for NFL chatter. And, this kind of reminds me a little bit, Couch, of Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, where, Javonte Williams was the better one, right? He was drafted a little bit higher, probably in the, early second-round pick for Javonte Williams, I believe. I think you could see that with Trevion Henderson, and I think you could see a Mayan Williams as like a Michael Carter. But what's the bottom line here, right? The bottom line is, we all got excited about Javonte Williams. We all saw the talent, and then we all overrated him, and we said, oh, he's the 5th or 6th best running back in all of Dynasty, and he's never produced that way. You want to blame it on an injury? Sure. But I'm going to blame it on the fact that, he's never really gotten the job to himself. When he was a rookie, it was Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, kind of 50-50. And now you see Javonte Williams with, who is it? Samaje Perine and then Jaleel McLaughlin, and there's a bunch of guys. So the situation is just not workhorsey, where it's like, we put this guy as RB5, RB6 in Dynasty overall.
I don't think it's his fault, though.
That's fine. That's fine, but that's my point, right? Like,
yeah, it's not. I just want to make it like it's not. It's not because of anything he did. It's because of the team and the O-line and the injury. But that happens a lot. I mean,
it happens, and it's probably going to happen to most of these guys in 2024. So we're all going to get very excited. Rookie fever is going to be a thing. Everyone's going to look at these running backs and right away say, hey, these guys are way better than 2023, aside from Bijan Robinson.
I watched Javonte's film his rookie year. Zero holes. Great. 0 complaints from me. I'm just telling you, I saw almost nothing to where I'm like, this guy's not going to be a star. And this is coming from a guy who I wasn't as high on him as a prospect. I thought it was a really good prospect. And I was pushing people to get him and he'd be good, but not as much as most fantasy analysts. So I ended up dodging the bullet, and I wasn't pushing him as hard as most people were. Mm-hmm. But when I look back at the rookie tape, he was way better than I thought. He was amazing. He had more speed than I thought, because he's fast on the field. Not necessarily the 40 time. He's a little faster on the field than his 40 time shows. The power, just as advertised, we knew that. I mean, everything, the what's it called? The balance, like his power balance, yeah. I mean, sometimes he'd get tackled. He'd go an extra 5 yards. He was really good. And he can also catch too. So, he checked all the boxes to be a top 5, and I hit on running backs when I watched them. Mm-hmm. So, just like Kareem, I like Kareem Hunt a lot as a prospect. Told everyone to draft him his rookie year. Yeah. He did great, and everything just fell apart around Javonte Williams, including that major injury. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. I mean, J.K. Dobbins. Here's a guy that I actually did draft like in one league, probably because I've been getting sniped. But like J.K. Dobbins, I thought he was going to be pretty good this year. At least at some points there was like a contract and this and that. But like J.K. Dobbins had all the makings to do good this year, and then some kind of like that happens
Something
again. He
happens.
got injured. Yeah.
Yeah. My major thing with Javonte Williams coming out of the draft, so this is before he even played a snap in the NFL, was I always said, hey, look, I'm going to draft and put ETN and Najee Harris in I'm going to draft them way higher and put them in not just one tier, but two tiers or, a couple tiers higher than Javonte Williams, for the simple fact that I've seen those two guys in college handle that workload. Let's talk about Devon Achane for a second. He was an undersized guy, but I always told you, we can go back and look at the podcast
like
if you want to.
19 plus carries a game, I think, something crazy
all the time.
like that.
He was a workhorse in college.
Yeah.
I cannot say that about Travion Henderson or Mayan Williams. Why? Because they're splitting carries. Let's move on to Michigan, where Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum were also splitting carries. I believe because Michigan wants Blake Corum, who is now a 4-year college player, a lot of tread on his tires. He will enter the NFL as an older rookie, Blake Corum. Because he has a chance to break some records, I believe this year that is the reason why Michigan is giving Blake Corum the ball a little bit more. So as far as an NFL evaluation, I'm going to be higher on the other guy, Donovan Edwards, because he's faster, can catch passes, he's more explosive, and he has less tread on the tires. Okay. But understand that even with all of that said, neither of these guys are capable of carrying the load on their own. Blake Corum, forget about how they're being, forget about the usage rate that they had 50-50 split carries a couple of seasons ago. Forget about that. Blake Corum does not have a complete skill set. He is severely lacking in the receiving skill set and speed kind of department. He has that acceleration. Let's not confuse speed with acceleration. He can get to that second, I guess what I'm trying to say is like that initial speed, that initial burst, that initial explosiveness is more of him kind of playing bully ball because he's more compact and he's playing college level athletes. All right. He doesn't really have that NFL type speed. Whereas Donovan Edwards does have that speed, does have those reliable hands as a pass catcher, but does not offer much in between the tackles. So both of these guys are complementary running back pieces that will be a part of a committee. Can they be effective? Yes. We've seen running backs like Devon Achane and Mostert, for example, who are, they're not getting the lion's share of carries, week 1 and week 2, whatever it was, but they've been effective in what they were doing. So you can see that could potentially happen with these two guys. But again, upside is capped, I think. I don't think we're getting a Bijan Robinson type of player or a Saquon Barkley type guy where you're getting just 75% of the carries with either Michigan player. Let's move on to the other side where it gets, again, Braylon Allen. He's from Wisconsin. He is.
Why'd you put these guys on the right? Is there there's no reason you put these guys on the right?
No reason. I just wanted to kind of do it by year and then by team.
Okay, but it's just how the graphic. Okay, I want to make sure.
Graphic is.
Okay.
Yeah. So by the way, everyone I've talked about so far will be available next year, including these next two guys that I'm gonna talk about here. Braylon Allen. If you asked me this about 2 years ago, I would have probably told you he's the next coming of Jonathan Taylor. He is not nearly as good. He's the same thing as Jonathan Taylor, just like a Walmart version, like a Wish version, Wish.com, however you want to, Goodwill. What is he missing from his game? Receiving. But the thing is, I think this is more similar to like a Ken Walker receiving thing, where it's like he can do it. He hasn't. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet.
It happens in college a lot. You look into it. They just don't throw to the RB, or they might have good receivers or whatever. There's whatever reason they have.
Braylon Allen right now, today, I think is going to be my top running back for next year. But again, first of all, I don't really have much confidence saying that. So I don't want to be too convicted. And then also number two, I don't really Okay, Braylon Allen's my top running back. What does that really mean? Not much. He's not that special. He's okay. He's pretty good. Like, he's not bad. He's good. He'll be a nice fantasy piece. Won't be a hammer for you. Won't be a hammer. Let's talk about Roman Hemby. He's the highest rising prospect right now. The reason why I wanted to put him is just to show you the depth of the class a little bit. Like I said, this is not every single name available next year, but this is definitely the bulk of them, at least the bulk of the notable ones. And Roman Hemby is probably going to be like a 5th or 6th round pick. And he's probably going to be like the 8th best running back, maybe the 9th best running back on the board. So that just kind of tells you where it's like, okay, you have all these running backs, but, if the 8th or 9th best one is going to be picked so late in the draft, that's probably about where the class ends, if that makes sense, Couch. Obviously, there's going to be like those Jaleel McLaughlins and those Ty Chandlers to get, drafted or undrafted free agency type guys that we don't know.
I'm probably taking this guy like mid to
this is like
mid
a 3rd round
3.
pick.
Yeah, rookie.
Yeah,
because I was
right.
just saying that's where I got Ramondre Stevenson, and I also right when I drafted Ramondre Stevenson, I took Javon Hawkins or something, like a total garbage guy.
Javion Hawkins, Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. And him and Ramondre went back to back with my picks, like 304, 306, 307, around there. And so I was thinking, okay, this guy's probably that's where I was taking like these flyers. So
yeah, that's the perfect word for it. Flyer. Now, I did want to include his name at least because he is a Big Ten running back. That's kind of the theme of today. But he also is he is pretty good. Like, he is an NFL caliber RB, but he's definitely on like the back end of a committee. And then we get to 2025. Nick Singleton. Perfect. That's what we want. We want Nick Singleton. That's the guy that I am. So we talk about the 2025 draft being terrible, and it is terrible. It's awful. But if you have the 1st overall pick, at least you get Nick Singleton. All right? We're going to talk way more in detail about how, compared to other 1st overall picks, it's not that great. Because, the fact that you have to get a running back in that, with the 1st overall pick kind of sucks.
So he's not as good as Bijan either.
Right. And he's not as good as Bijan. He's great. He's awesome. He's not as good as Bijan. He's close, but he's not. I would say if you wanted me to rank ETN, Najee Harris, and Singleton, I think that's more of a realistic thing than to rank Bijan, Saquon, and Singleton, if that makes sense. He's in a different category. He's in that tier.
Well, how is he? Is he a better prospect than Najee or ETN, or around the same? Or
I would say around the same, because for me, I always believe that ETN, him being the greatest ACC running back in the history of that conference, will show itself, and he was drafted in the 1st round. I always thought that was, at some point in the NFL that we were going to all see that on display. So, for that reason, I do have a little bit of bias towards ETN, right? Because he's kind of like the my guy type of thing. But I think Singleton's right there. I think he's right there. He's not above them. He's definitely not ahead of them, but I don't think it would be fair to say he's below them either. The problem is, Couch, we got to wait 2 years to get a guy who's going to be drafted in the late 1st round. So it's not Bijan. Is it worth it? I don't know. I'd rather just take Josh Jacobs today, right? You tell me if we're talking trade value. But hey, as far as tanking goes, as far as the future looks, that's the one. That's the one. Honestly, man, we could, if we wanted to, I could just talk about Nick Singleton for the entire segment and screw the rest of these guys, because seriously, that's the difference that we're talking about here. Nick Singleton is the one. I don't want to talk about anything with his skill set, anything with his film, anything with his production yet, because I want to do a completely different segment later on this year dedicated specifically to him, because he is that dude. He is worth the time to do that for. Just want to give you the heads up, though, that, hey, as far as the RB pipeline goes, next 2-3 years, that's the one. That's the guy. And his backup, Katron Allen, is not bad, too. He's actually not bad either. I think he's close to what we're looking at with the Travion Hendersons and the Donovan Edwards, like the the lead back on these other teams who have split carries, I think the backup to Singleton is, on that level. So is this similar to Bijan and Roshan Johnson? No, it's not. Because Katron Allen, the Roshan Johnson of Bijan is getting carries, right? For Bijan and Roshan, Bijan got everything, Roshan got nothing. For this Singleton Katron Allen thing, Katron Allen is getting some carries, but it's not this. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it to you, Couch, but it's just not the same as the Michigan and Ohio State split carries. It's just not, because both of these guys are popping off with their opportunities. So it's like, rather than having like, a running back by committee thing, it's more of like you're just using two running backs because those are the two best players that you have, right? So I'm really high on both of these guys. As I get more tape on Katron Allen, I'll have a better idea of what he could be in the NFL. But for now, he gets the green check as far as like, committee type guys that I will look to draft. Definitely Katron Allen on the list. But hey, bottom line is Nick Singleton, great player. But aside from him, and I'm going to end the segment on this, right? Aside from Nick Singleton, what are you getting realistically with these running backs? I have a little kind of a ceiling floor type of comparison for you. So with just these 8 guys, I think that the worst case scenario that we're going to get is probably a Jerick McKinnon, who is a guy that, super inconsistent. He's not the lead back, but he's definitely a big chunk of a committee. You can start him in a pinch and get lucky, get that lucky touchdown, get a couple lucky receptions. That's probably what you're going to get with one of these guys. Okay, you might also find a situation where you have an Elijah Mitchell, right? Elijah Mitchell is a guy who, as soon as Christian McCaffrey gets injured, he's pretty good. Now, I understand Jordan Mason, they have another guy there who's also, getting carries and whatever. But generally speaking, Elijah Mitchell is startable with confidence if he's healthy and McCaffrey is not healthy. I think that's what you can get with a guy like Blake Corum, maybe. Maybe he's behind a guy like, let's say like Alvin Kamara. I think that's a bad example because they just drafted a running back. But, let's say like Saquon, for example. Let's say the Giants drafted Blake Corum. Okay, well, he's not going to be that great behind Saquon, but as soon as Saquon gets hurt, hey, maybe he can be something. Then you have a guy like Khalil Herbert, right, where it's like, he's not really that great of a talent, but the situation is there where he's getting some volume to be playable, so he's kind of like a flex type guy. Maybe you get that with Mayan Williams, for example, right? Same thing with Brian Williams, except now he's got more of like a true lead back type of thing. You might also get a situation like Kendre Miller, where it's like, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, people drafted him high, didn't really end up that well. Same thing with Zach Charbonnet, where it's like he's only good when Ken Walker. Actually, you know what? Zach Charbonnet is a different conversation. Zach Charbonnet is what I am dreading does not happen with this running back class, but I know it will. Because with Zach Charbonnet, it's like you have Ken Walker, who's great. You have Zach Charbonnet, who's pretty good. But as soon as they both ended up on the same team, it damages each other's dynasty value. And I feel like you might get that with this running back class as well, with the ceiling only being Javonte Williams. So that's what we're getting. It's not the most exciting thing. That's the state of the position that we are in, aside from Nick Singleton. But even Nick Singleton, not the prized possession that Bijan Robinson was. That's what I got for you guys today as far as running backs go. The biggest question that I have for you guys, you don't have to answer it, but start thinking about this, especially if you're a dynasty player, is how are you going to respond to this? Right? I'm laying out all the facts for you guys right now. This is what the RB landscape looks like in dynasty fantasy football, in the NFL, and college ball, future NFL prospects. We've laid it out for you guys. How will you respond? It's a changing RB landscape. You got to have some sort of a plan. What is your plan? Start thinking of one today. That's what I got for you guys.
This teal part, I think, was a little confusing. I think I understand it. Let me sum it up. So when you say like Javonte or Zach Charbonnet, just want to clarify, is I think this is what you're talking about. You're talking about like a time capsule where For instance, Zach Charbonnet, you're talking about like the moment he got drafted. Because right now, I mean, it'd be more fair to call him a bust, even though it's too early. But then, like,
sorry, this is all like prospect.
Yeah, like Javonte, you know, his
Right.
rookie year, you could call him elite or borderline elite. Yeah, and Elijah Mitchell, you know, that he was awesome his rookie year, and I had to fight a lot of people on Twitter. People were really angry at me for telling them to spend all their FAB on Elijah Mitchell. They were saying I was reckless and, you know, just being an idiot. And, you know, like I've been giving people life advice. I'm like, it's just a game. And I was right. And then he got hurt. And then I was wrong. So that's like the most frustrating ones. But yeah, you're talking like a younger Elijah Mitchell. Because now Elijah Mitchell's like old and more broken. He hasn't been long, but he's been through so much.
You know what I mean?
He's like
understood exactly what I mean.
I just want to make it clear because everyone's like, wait, what? That guy sucked. Or wait, that guy's actually good. You know, like, we're talking about kind of like when they were drafted or like what we thought. You know, he's just giving examples. But obviously,
what these guys could end up as.
It goes to change. Like the same guy we're talking about, just a year later is totally and I mean it goes on with this theme as in the same guy we're talking about all of a sudden now a year later or even like once week 1 starts is totally like Zach Charbonnet when everyone was like the whole internet was complaining for 40 days about how Zach Charbonnet he was the one and Ken Walker was the one and now we just have 2 pieces of poop and this and that. You know, it didn't happen. Ken Walker is like doing even better than he was before, and Zach Charbonnet is not doing anything. Go ahead, guys. Ask your fantasy football questions or talk about the RB landscape. I've been dying to show you this one here because I have my answer ready. Getter Dunn says Couch and Dynasty Day Trader. Would y'all rather have Marvin Harrison Jr. or Bijan in Dynasty Superflex?
Oh man. Oh God. You first? You have your answer queued up.
I go with the wide receiver. I mean, I don't overthink it. You're talking about a guy who's Bijan's going to be like 30% done with his career before Marvin Harrison takes a snap damn near.
Okay, I understand it from that perspective. I'm totally with you.
No brainer. It's no brainer.
That's why I would lean I'm very 50-50. You know, you definitely just laid out the argument why I would take Marvin Harrison. But man, I just sat here and told you how terrible the RB future looks like. If I can get my hands on a Bijan Robinson, you know, now all of a sudden I just have to figure it out with one running back spot.
Doesn't mean you're gonna win though. I get it. Like that's a great go for it. Like you're gonna, you know, go for the championship. You can win with as long as you fill up your RB spot with Pacheco.
You're right.
Guys like that.
You're right.
You can win. You don't. What's Bijan? Bijan to give us 0.3 fantasy points because he got a headache. He's on the Falcons.
You're right.
He didn't. That's what I mean. I'm just saying it's not like Bijan's like the RB1 right now. I mean, he's in the middle of a controversy. He's in the middle of like a Bijan gate, whatever, like one of these conspiracies. Right? The NFL's literally investigating them because of what they did last week. So
I love it.
I mean, to me, it's a no. It's basically like asking me, do I take a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old? If I were to sum up like the lifespan in Dynasty, like, oh, I'll take the 25-year-old.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. My whole thing is that
I said 30. Ooh, I forgot. I said I was just a random number. I said 30, which is actually death for running back. So that's like a trigger word. You can't say 30.
Yeah,
so
that really is. That number 30.
Do I take a 21-year-old or a 25-year-old? Okay, that's a better example. I'm taking the 21-year-old.
25-year-old RB. Ooh, those guys are old.
No, I'm just no. I didn't even put a position. I'm just drawing a bar graph. I'm not giving any position, nothing. Like, you know, in Dynasty, do I take a player who has this much lifespan left or this much lifespan left? I'll go with this one. You know, like if it's because that seems to be because these guys are both talented. Like, oh, I'll
Right,
take the
right.
guy who's going to play another 10 years versus another 5 years. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm so 50-50 just because of how scarce these elite RBs are, but I totally understand the argument of just figuring it out with the Pachecos of the world, because that is a thing right now. That is a very successful strategy. That is, man. I mean, all the sharper guys are doing that, which means that to be sharper than them, you have to kind of figure out how to best that strategy. But most guys are playing the way that you just kind of laid out. Now, I will say this. I will say this. I will say, because this is important, because we do have to live in October 26th, 2023, because that's the day that we're doing this, right? Do not make this trade. If you have Bijan Robinson, you got to ask for more than just the pick for Marvin Harrison. But again, it is kind of a 50-50 thing where I would say it's kind of a push right now. I would have either or. I'm cool with either or. Just
okay,
depends on
well,
where
I
you're
think
at.
that's
If
a
you're more
good. I think
competing,
that's good advice. That's something that I would learn. Okay, so that's good. If you were to make this, you have because this is probably what this guy has.
yeah,
Like, if you want to be really, he probably does have Bijan, and he has a lot of draft picks, or he's going to make a trade. You're
yeah.
saying if you were to make a trade, which would pretty much land you Harrison, ask for more.
Ask for
Don't just don't just
a
do
decent
a
amount more,
even
not like a
trade.
fourth round pick more, but like maybe ask for like someone like a Treylon Burks, like a guy who's like has some potential still, but like is definitely like kind of like a buy low type, or maybe like an Elijah Moore guy, right? Has some flex appeal some weeks, but not
Jahan Dotson
Dotson. That yep,
in
something like
Dynasty, he's still
right.
very young, so yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Got a lot. The chat was alive today. Chat was alive. I love the chat. This guy's been dying to get his question answered. Hey guys, I just got offered CD Lamb for Swift and Palmer. My RB. I don't even want to read this anymore. Don't go get CD Lamb. Stick with DeAndre Swift. CD Lamb is
Yeah.
very overrated. I'm a hater. Oh, you should have seen this one live stream where the 90 seconds on the clock and like the only guy to draft was CD Lamb, and I was just dreading it. And everyone's like, "Oh, you should be so happy." I'm like, "No. No. I wasn't even high on AJ Brown. But I was like, I would just wish AJ Brown was here. He wasn't there." And I was like, "God, how'd all these guys go? Like Garrett Wilson went, AJ Brown went, and then Diggs went, and I was like, no, no. And then
Oh
Devontae
no.
Adams went, who I was like, I loved. And I was like, no, like, because those guys, everyone either hates Garrett Wilson or Adams in every draft. Like, they hate either one of those two. One's too old, and or they hate Jimmy G, or one's too, like, unproven Garrett Wilson, and he's on the Jets. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Something or
get one of
another.
them. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just get AJ Brown. Like, he's not that bad. Like, he'll be fine. And I just
He's
ended up with
amazing.
CeeDee Lamb.
He's amazing.
Oh, he's way better than I thought. Yeah, but
Oh yeah.
except the first 2 weeks. You guys are lucky you didn't do those trades. Don't think I don't remember. Everybody was hitting me. He's like a phenomenon of like going way out of their way to trade for Devontae Smith, who I'm a fan of. But I was like, guy, don't. I'm gonna trade AJ Brown and like some running back for Devontae Smith. Everybody was hitting me up with that. Don't think I don't like. I remember you guys on my Patreon everywhere, and I was like, dude, it's just not good value. Like, even though I love Devontae Smith, like, it's
You are a
not good
value
value.
guy. You always
Yeah,
are that.
it's
I'll
not
tell you
good.
that.
Like, it's still AJ Brown. Like, it's not like a nobody. Like, he's still uh, a really good alpha wide receiver on the Eagles. He had a terrible 2 games, and now that's just total. That's out. Like, he's like the best wide receiver now in the whole league. It's like he's amazing. It's great. Glad you guys
Yeah.
didn't do that because you guys would lose your league.
Yeah, that is a league losing type of transaction for
Yeah,
sure.
trading everything for Devontae
Oh my
Smith.
god.
You're
Woo!
done. Yeah, you're done. I have the
Smooth.
first 2 picks this year because I traded the Bijan pick for the 101 and 102 picks this year, And oh my God, this guy got a haul. Hopefully it's super flex. Even if it's not super flex,
Dude,
that's
even if it's
amazing
not
though.
super flex, that's
Yeah,
what you do.
amazing.
That's what you do. Oh my God. What a
Damn.
wow.
This guy found somebody that traded with him that likes Bijan more than us.
That's crazy.
Not, who has those assets
crazy.
though? Just chilling, like, hey, I got a first pick, second pick, and here's a T Higgins. Who has those assets? That's crazy.
Okay, hold on.
With that.
I have an idea, Couch. Maybe this guy traded his first round pick and T Higgins for Bijan Robinson, thinking that he can actually compete, and it totally blew up in his face. And now the first round pick he gave has become the 1.1. Maybe that's what's happening. That's my conspiracy theory.
1.2 as well,
or 1.2. Maybe he's the first of the. He thought he could compete, and his team is terrible. The guy who bought Bijan.
Wait. He traded Bijan. This is what he typed for the 101 and 102 and T Higgins.
Okay,
regardless of what you're saying,
oh my
he
God,
traded for 2 firsts and T Higgins. So there's no way, like it's still. You got to at least know one of those was going to be early. Like you had to know that. So he got quite the haul.
Mind-numbing trade.
Knowing that 2024 is a good draft class.
Wow. Well done.
That's how you start a dynasty, though. Think about it.
Well done.
Get the 102, which I hope to get the 101 and 102 in 2024. Because I think I can do that. Because I think I'm the bottom 2 in Empire, right? I think I'm second to last.
Okay.
And I have Ben's pick or whoever who's like by far the worst.
Oh, he just traded a bunch of stuff to get more picks. So yeah, he's tanking for sure.
Oh, he was already done. Like he was like way lower than me on the max. And then he did make all those trades. So I think I'm looking to have the 101, 102. I just don't have T Higgins. And I have Bijan. So I mean,
T Higgins is, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, but I'd rather have Bijan. So I got the whole shebang. So
hey man, I have a league where I got
is
this
a question?
And Marvin.
This is just the flex. He just wanted to flex on the podcast.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's no question here.
Flex.
Good flex, nice flex. We like the flex. We approve of the flex. Travis says K-Tron looks like a guy that likes contact and is hard to tackle.
And Travis Blair looks like a guy who watches Penn State football. Because I agree, sir. Absolutely. That is a very good assessment of K-Tron Allen. Again, I don't want to talk about him too much because I do have a separate thing planned out for just those two guys. In a couple of weeks from now, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty at that time only. But yes, he is my type of running back for sure. Love him. Physical guy. I took A.J. Brown, and someone got super mad at me and said I'm an idiot for not taking Devonta Smith. Hey, man, you got your victim there.
You sound like you got a bunch of just people I don't like in your league. Just, bad vibes, just gross people in your league.
Yeah,
like people I would not conversate with. This is like a like once I hear this type of conversation, I walk away, put on my headphones, and I block you on social media. Just the stupid comments like that. Would you trade DK Metcalf and Kareem Hunt for Jefferson in a 16-team PPR? Person I'm trading with is starting Zeke and wants Hunt. Yeah, I would.
Really? For Jefferson?
Yeah. It's worth the risk.
Okay, it's worth the risk. I was going
to say, I've been in these kind of leagues. These leagues, how I view them, it might be wrong because I've won huge tournaments against like 200,000 people, 10,000 people. But I don't know. These type of leagues, once you get like above a 14-team league, it feels impossible to win these things. It just What is it? One divided by 16. So you got a I mean that's 6% chance to win a 16-team league. It's pretty low.
Yeah,
Kareem Hunt to me, he's a cool rental. He's a high-end RB2. He's going to be that for a couple weeks. Then he's going to be in a low-end committee. It's not going to be that awesome. Then you got DK Metcalf, who, he's good. He doesn't push. He's not going to help you win, I don't think. He'll help you, like, be okay. above 500. Like I can help. He can maybe help you make playoffs, but he won't help you win. Jefferson, the Vikings just beat the Niners. Remember, which is huge in terms of we're talking about when Jefferson comes back or not, because everyone's talking about they're going to tank. Well, I don't know, man. A team that just beat the Niners that doesn't smell like and primetime Kirk Cousins just killing it. That doesn't smell like a team that might be tanking anytime soon. So if Jefferson comes back, that sounds like a way to win. Yeah, because what do you want to come in 4th place in your league, 6th place? Doesn't matter if you come in 16th. Nah, you get Jefferson, you might come in 1st. That's how I see it.
Yeah. No, it's totally fair. I get it.
Is Brock Bowers a late round 1 rookie draft pick? He definitely should go round 1, right?
Yeah. So I think so let's assume it's super flex, right? Because if it's 1 QB, then that's not even a question. Super flex, I think he should be a mid-first round pick. Depends on how your league operates with tight ends, right? Some guys will get excited about him and take him like 4th overall. Some guys will, maybe you're like in an older, a league with older guys who are just like, rookie tight ends. They don't hit. I'm not going to draft a rookie tight end, blah, blah, blah. And maybe at that point you fall late round 1. But I think late round 1 is kind of like the latest, like the floor that you're going to get with Bowers.
I think I'm telling you right now, I'm probably going to, I would probably go really aggressive and I don't know. I don't know much about the draft, but as far as Brock Bowers goes, I'm probably going to go really aggressive and go get him because Kelsey's not going to last forever. Mark Andrews actually isn't that young either. And you're going to have a messy tight end landscape. And if that guy's the next guy, I think that type of risk is worth it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, because there's already rumors, and they're probably not even true, but they're talking about this guy being drafted in the NFL draft super, super early.
Yeah.
Where do you think he's going? Where do you think he's going in the NFL draft?
Top 10, easily.
Top 10? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's not for a tight end. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
That's a big deal, yeah. And so I think I'd be willing to take that risk too. And if an NFL team's willing to do it, I think I'd be willing to draft him. I don't know where yet. I'm not educated enough to tell you exactly yet. Like, was it 4th? Is it 7th? Is it 6th? But I think it's safe to say that I would go aggressive, and I'll probably recommend people to take him early. I got a great feeling.
Yeah,
I mean, you could just be a huge, huge playmaker, and you'd just be sorry that you don't have that guy. Dynasty.
I am with you there. And if you remember we covered Brock Bowers, I think 3-4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks back. We talked about the little Mount Rushmore thing. We have Kyle Pitts in 2021. He's already in the league. Michael Mayer just got drafted. He'll take a little bit of time to get going. Brock Bowers is who we're talking about. And then after that, there's no one until 2027. That's 4 years from now, bro. So if you did not get a tight end in a class that everyone told you it was a good tight end class for some reason, it's kind of like Brock Bowers is. I don't want to say he's your last chance because I mean obviously that's not true. We're going to get some guys in 2025, 2026, etc. But man, it might be one of your last real chances at getting that difference-making tight end. So there's something else to think about, right? As far as positional value, if you're on the fence between like getting like the third best receiver or Brock Bowers, maybe the fact that now that there's not going to be much of a tight end pipeline in the future, maybe that kind of breaks the tie for you in a way.
I feel like Danny Garcia hasn't tuned into the podcast in a while. It's just the vibes I'm getting from his comments. Is Schoonmaker slept on or just sucks?
He sucks for fantasy. He's great for, my eyes as a tight end coach, but not for fantasy football.
And he's probably continue to suck, you think, in terms of dynasty?
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. For fantasy,
blocker.
Yeah, not good.
He's a blocker.
We
talked about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we talked about this topic a lot. Because there's always some Cowboys fans listen to the podcast, so we talked about Schoonmaker a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
especially a while ago, like when we were talking about the NFL draft and before the season started and stuff. We were talking about him quite a bit.
Yeah.
We broke it down.
And I don't want to say he sucks because he's a good blocking tight end, but we don't care about that.
Fantasy football podcast.
So he does
Shane,
suck.
come on,
Right.
relax. Yeah. Fantasy football podcast.
I have to give my love to
a lot of good
ends,
third string tight ends out there in the NFL for sure.
Baby.
Like they're not really good, but we do not care about that. Like the guy on the Bills, someone was talking about that when I was live. It's all good, Danny Garcia. You're great. You're all good. I am making fun of you, but that's just how I like to, out of love, I make fun of everybody, including myself.
It's interactive.
It's just how it's how us guys talk. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Huh?
Yeah,
that's all. Like, not really. Like I don't like hate you or anything. It's all good. What the heck were we talking? I was talking about. The on the last live stream, we're talking about that Bills tight end. I was like, dude, yeah, I don't even know who that was. The third string tight end scored a touchdown. I don't know his name. It's like Quinn or I don't know, but he's out too, by the way.
So, really?
Dawson Knox wrist injury, out 4 weeks. And,
IR. Yep.
So whoever the heck his name is, like I was like, I don't know. I guess I still don't know, but he
neither do I, man.
Touchdown. Yeah, so the third string tight end, but I'm sure he's a good player, but like that ain't fan because he was basically talking
not for us.
Like they're in like a super crazy deep league, and he told his buddy like, "Oh, start this guy," and he got that one, the one lucky touchdown. Because Dawson Knox is hurt. Paulie says, I have 2 RBs. One is going to play indefinite rain this week, Steelers, and the other has good weather. Does the weather help you make your decision? Weather is really tough because there's a lot that goes to it. Because I see a lot of rain games where it's fine, and then I see rain games where they're dropping the ball all the time. Could be a good tiebreaker though. Yeah, weather is tough, man. There's so much that goes into it, keeping the ball dry. I was just thinking about this the other day randomly. Like, has it been raining? Is it like on and off? Did it just start raining? Is like everything wet? Everything's wet all the time. The level of how much it's raining matters. Could be a good tiebreaker. I think if it's a tiebreaker, whether no rain versus rain, I'm going with the no rain.
Hold on. I thought because he's talking about running backs. Yeah. I thought rain would be better because you're more likely to keep the ball on the ground, get more rushing attempts than passing.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah. I mean, they do run more, and it also is like sloppy too. Like they do run more, but it's more so with the wind. That's another thing. Yeah, if it's more about the wind. So if it's really wind.
Yeah, true.
And then like that's why it's like rain versus not rain. It's not black and white. So if it's very windy, I'm more concerned about the wind. Then they don't throw it deep and they run the ball more. When it's rainy, they tend to run the ball more a little bit more, but it's not that big of a difference. Like that's why I think that's kind of why the Bills got a guy like Josh Allen. They're like, oh, dude, we don't really care. Like we're gonna throw the ball no matter what.
Right.
Because he can cut through the wind. But even Josh Allen, if the winds are like 29 miles an hour, they're still not going to throw deep as much. So the wind, the first thing, so I guess that's, let's break it. The first thing you actually want to look at is the wind. That's the one where I have data and I can tell you what's going on. The rain is kind of hit or miss because I gave a lot of bad advice about like don't worry about the rain, and then I look at everyone's dropping the ball. Like it's like the sloppiest, craziest game where it doesn't even matter what. Like it's just not the game's not happening. There's not going to be a lot of touchdowns. It's sloppy across the board, and you don't want to really start anybody in that type of game. And then I see rain games where it's fine. Like it's not that
total non-factor. Yeah, I got you. Okay,
so
wind, really focus on the wind.
Yeah, but severe rain, and if it's raining like all morning, all afternoon, yeah, I think that's worse. I think that, unfortunately, I am not the rain expert because this is something I'm still learning where I was like, look, don't worry about the rain. And then, I look at the game and I'm like, oh, you probably should have worried about the rain because it's really affected them. So that one's tough. Snow actually is easier for me. We don't have any snow here in California, but snow's actually easier. If it's not extreme snow, I don't even worry about it at all.
Yep.
Just look at the wind. Because that's actually snow games where Tom Brady broke a record. He threw like 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns and a half or a quarter. It was insane. He just went all, like the biggest quarter in all of football.
I believe that was against the Chicago Bears.
That's the Titans.
Titans? Okay.
Yeah. It
There's
was
another one where we went off against the Bears.
Yeah, so it was all snow, but then visibility was good. It wasn't a blizzard and it wasn't high winds, right?
Yeah.
So that's what in snow, that's what you got. If it's pouring down and like you can't even step right and you can't even see, that game is screwed. Like no one's doing that. It's gonna be one of these crazy games.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah, that's screwed. But if it's just like a little bit of snow, they're good. They're good to go. Like they're gonna be. You don't think Josh Allen's gonna throw the ball? He's gonna probably throw accurately. Matter of fact.
Oh yeah.
So
Josh Allen.
There's a lot to that goes with it. Rain is tricky though, but hey, at least I admit like I don't have all the rain answers. We still have to get down with this rain. I'm sure we can find someone who knows more about this because it's tough. And I was just watching videos about like drying off the ball for quarterbacks and what to do. I was just randomly watching videos about this and I was just thinking about this, but anyway, look at the wind.
Yep, look at the wind, bottom line.
Then we'll see what happens with the rain.
Yep.
Couch, where would you like to see Henry and Adams be traded fantasy-wise? Devontae Adams? He's not getting traded.
Devontae Adams on the move?
Yeah, you can't make up stuff here, dude. What do you think? This is a fantasy? You can't just get what you want. I don't really put any thought about that. I'm trying to give you guys advice and content. I'm not really worried about my own feelings here. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't even really I guess I just want to be the first to see where he goes. You go ahead.
Let me rephrase.
Where do you want to go?
Let me rephrase this question. Right. So you asked us to drop a comment which team you think Henry will go to. So let me ask you, which team do you think he'll go to?
Ravens.
You heard it here first. There you go.
Yeah.
Baltimore Ravens.
Like you pretty much said that too. Yeah, that's even though I don't know if their value chart will allow them to do it. It is a move that I think they're pretty close to being Super Bowl ready. Even if it helps them just a little bit, that could be it to push them over the edge and get a Super Bowl.
And for fantasy, that would be great. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield is chaotic. Oh my god!
I don't know. I do know for defenses that's going to be rough. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because it's like I don't think there's a way to stop either one. So, it's just going to be a lot of yelling on the sideline, and that's it. No real, no game plan that's going to work, but just a lot of yelling. So it's going to be basically 12 Derek Carrs yelling at each other, but on defense.
Absolutely love it.
Just constantly just yelling. Nothing actually happening. Just a bunch of yelling. Mascara running down their eyes.
Yeah.
Typical Derek Carr stuff. Derek Carr behavior. And we got a Raiders profile pic here. Aren't you glad Derek Carr's off your team? Something to celebrate. You got to celebrate the small victories, my friend.
Small victories in life.
Yeah, small victories. Just I always take the small W's. I showed you that claim thing, right? I got like $20 or $12. I got a $12 check. Unclaimed properties. You saw that? $12, 8 cents. From the California. Yeah, celebrate the small wins.
That's a win, dude. Yeah, I'm
old. I'm an old person. Okay, I'm telling you, $12 is not a lot to me anymore. When I was like 15, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, of course. Right.
But now it's nothing. I still celebrated that small win. $12.08 of unclaimed properties. You guys better Google that, unclaimed properties, and then Google your state and go claim that. Some people found I think Bob in our Discord found $0, which is just unfortunate. Some people are finding $7,000.
Yo, that's crazy.
Mike found 400.
There you go.
I searched for him because
win.
I knew he wouldn't do it. I searched for him. I searched for Drew. Drew's producing. He's behind the scenes right now. $150 I found.
There
for
you
Drew.
go.
I knew
Wow.
he wouldn't search
These are
his name
wins.
either.
These are
You gotta
big
celebrate
time wins,
the wins.
fellas.
Derek Carr, that's like $700. That's how happy you should
that's
be.
a fat check coming in.
That's a good. I think that's a good W. Yeah, it's a good size W. Getting rid of Derek Carr off your team. It's baby steps, man.
Yeah.
I know the team's still a mess. You got a long ways to go, but you got rid of one.
You gotta start cleaning it up. You got.
Yeah.
You can't clean up all the mess. You gotta start picking up.
One room in your house. I mean,
exactly. There you go.
Someone dropped Aaron Jones in my league. How much FAB should I spend to get him? Now I have 67 out of 100. I think you go all in.
All of it.
No, I don't like Aaron Jones. Just go all in. Get yourself a starting running back. I think this is no brainer. I mean, I think 67. I wouldn't even spend 66.
Yeah, all of it. 67. All of it.
Bro, in our league, I spent in our dynasty league. It's because I'm not in too many leagues with you. I just spent all my FAB on the Mercado.
Oh.
It's not even it's not a good pickup. It's not smart. It's not. But I'm just telling you what I did.
It's a dynasty league. There's no one else there.
That's actually the big point. Yeah, there's no one. Yeah. You think you're gonna get a better guy on waivers than Aaron Jones?
No.
Nobody listening to this podcast right now is gonna be able to bid on a guy better than Aaron Jones.
Fact.
I showed in the beginning. This is what I showed in the beginning. You saw this. Did you saw this? Did you see this?
Yep, I did.
Okay, yeah, I overbid on Dalton Kincaid. Like, you're usually not going to be able to get a tight end one. Like, I'm like, Dalton Kincaid right now, I was like, he can be a top 5 tight end. You're not going to get this opportunity usually. So I went all in. I mean, I spent 70% FAB. Just so
you gotta pick and choose for sure.
You got 70% FAB left. I got everything else. By the way, yeah, I'm stacked at RB. Pretty good on wide receiver. Keenan Allen, like I got, I'm doing pretty good. Herbert,
yeah, good.
I'm doing good in the league. Only thing I'm missing is like
Freiermuth
on my IR, Musgrave on my bench. Like I just needed a tight end, so
you got him.
There we go.
Yep.
Smart. I think
you
got to go
of your money. Very smart.
Yeah, but you don't got to pay Derek Carr, and maybe you guys go get Drake May this year. It's small. Like I didn't say you got rid of Derek Carr and you're going to win a Super Bowl this year. No, it's not the same crap. Jimmy G he's a bridge, man. He's a bridge. It's the step. You got to take the step. You're on this side, right, of the freeway. Now you're on the bridge, and next year's hopefully the other side of the bridge.
Hey man, Drake May and Michael Mayer will be absolutely fire.
You think so?
Can't wait for that to happen if it does.
Let's go. All right, Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer balling out. Let's do it. Why not? Why not both?
Why not? Why not both, baby? Why not both?
Couch, where would you like to?
I always saw that one.
I read that with too much enthusiasm. Will A-Chain see his same workload? Yes, when he comes back. Yes, he will. Speaking of injury-prone players, Raheem Mostert's ahead of him, so that guy's so injury-prone.
He's so good, but so injury-prone. That's how it works.
This is long. Should we read Travis's last one?
Yeah, last one. Let's end it here.
Got offered Jefferson Pacheco, but I'm just gonna read this. He says, "Sorry, I would get Jefferson Pacheco and a second rounder." Okay, so got offered Jefferson Pacheco and a second rounder for Bijan and Metcalf and Cortland Sutton. I'm probably going to have the 1.01 or the 1.02 this year. Thoughts? Jefferson Pacheco in the first. That's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Well,
the
first
Jefferson
is a second.
side?
The first is a second. The first pick is actually a second rounder, he said.
Yeah.
He corrected that. So Jefferson's better than Bijan. Pacheco
and Metcalf.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Jefferson's just better than Bijan and Mac. Yeah, this is like not even close, bro.
Pacheco's like scoring more fantasy points than Bijan, which I know doesn't mean that much, but I mean it means something. It's something.
Yeah, dude.
And you get a second.
Yeah, take this deal and then go ahead and create your dynasty with the 1.1, 1.2.
That sounds great. Yeah, create a dynasty. Yeah, and the players you're getting they're not old. That's what I like. Jefferson and Pacheco are not old at all.
Yeah, great assets to build around.
Comes out to about the same age as like Bijan and Metcalf. Now, what other pod? I seen this on some like reels and stuff. You know, people are saying to trade for Cortland Sutton if you're win now in Dynasty, and so that's what this guy's doing. Jefferson's out, right?
I see.
He's getting Bijan, who's putting up points. Metcalf's back from his injury, and Cortland Sutton's a high-end wide receiver too. A little bit of a sleeper, kind of like, I don't know how to put it, like going under the radar, right? He's on a bad team, but you know, he's a top 15-ish, top 17-ish wide receiver, which is very productive. It's startable every week.
Yeah.
So that's what this guy's doing. I think he's paying the price for that.
No, I see the angle now for sure.
Yeah, and Jefferson though, like I guess you know his only real downside in Dynasty is whose quarterback's going to be next year.
I don't think that matters, bro. It's Justin Jefferson. This is like one of those dudes who are just like he's literally DeAndre Hopkins.
I'm just nitpicking though.
Okay,
I'm just nitpicking like what like bro, because this is such a no-brainer, right? So like I gotta think twice. Remember when I got offered I got an awesome offer for Denzel Mims.
Oh yeah, right. You just had to make sure.
I couldn't accept it. I had to Google. Dude, it took me an hour to 2 hours of Googling and doing research because like, I was so shocked. That was epic. We haven't talked. It's been a year since we talked about that trade. I got offered Freiermuth for my Denzel Mims, and then the guy threw in a pick. He threw in a 3rd round pick just to seal the deal, and I'm like,
crazy.
I get the 3rd round pick. I was like, what is? And I was like, the thing is, like, I was really high on Freiermuth. I was like, and that guy was too, because he drafted him. He drafted him in the rookie draft. So there's no way he wasn't. Like, you usually don't like go pick the guy you hate. And I was like, I'm gonna get the guy like Denzel Mims is really bad. And so I made the move. But that's like one thing I was like, why is this trade happening? You know, I'm very curious. But that's it. He's a win now. That's what he said. Yeah, Travis says, yeah, he's a win now.
Yep, makes sense now. I got it.
I traded Judy. I traded Judy, Derrick Henry, and Jonnu Smith for CMC. Absolute fleece or fair? Yeah, I think it's a big win. Yeah, it's a big win because in a trade like this, you got to kind of not think about Judy and Jonnu. When we talk about if you're talking about a crappy trade, then Jonnu Smith and Judy are. You know, you got to consider them. But when you're talking about guys like CMC, who's kind of the best player in fantasy right now, probably most valuable player in fantasy right now. Yeah,
for sure.
Those guys don't matter. Like, I'd be like, what? Huh? Like, what? Okay, whatever, dude. You want to take the guys on my bench? Okay. Like, I'll take 2 bench players. I'm like, dude, just take any 2 players you want off my bench. And this guy coincidentally probably picked the 2 worst ones. So it's like, fine, take them. That's better. I can just go pick, because literally anybody you pick up off waivers, a random waiver wire pickup that you find on my videos every Tuesday on the main channel is going to probably produce the same as Judy and Jonnu. Like easily. Michael Wilson, KJ Osborne. That's the same guy as Judy. Like, and then Jonnu Smith. I mean, he's been awesome, but you know, you could just be bold like me and go all in on Kincaid, and then you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
So
good there.
That's great. Okay.
Go
DM you in Discord. Yes. That's great. All right, guys, we're going to end it on that. Congratulations, Josh. Congratulations to all Raiders fans for getting rid of Derek Carr, the first step to many on a long journey. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And tomorrow on the main channel, we will be doing the fantasy football news and AMA on there. All right, guys, we'll end it on that. Good luck this year in redraft, and good luck on your journey in Dynasty. Peace.